I'll be getting into this subject here pretty soon, pretty quick. This how important is social media and marketing? That could be for your band or for you personally, or your business, those kind of things. And I've seen some stuff happen recently over the past week that thought, oh, that's really good, and that is incredibly terrible way of marketing. All right, let's get right into it. Who's ready to be schooled? Oh my gosh. How does marketing relate into into promoting your band or your business or yourself? Like, for example, I'm sure that you've noticed that I am self-promoting quite frequently. And that's all part of my plan and what I'm trying to accomplish. So it's really necessary. So just wanted to share some things that I've learned recently and that I've learned over the last year that work really well, and some things that I've been told not to do and that I have seen and witnessed people doing, and some confusion that lies within all of that. So one thing is, as musicians, we're really good at the musician part, generally speaking. All of us could probably look ourselves in the mirror and think, oh, I could improve my playing or those kind of things, or maybe I could be a better band member, so there's a lot that goes into that, even just, that being a better band member. Like, for me personally, when I'm part of a band, like, just like on the musical front, I want to play the best I can all the time. And I don't always hit that mark, but I definitely try. Like, I'm doing everything on my side of the fence or on my side of the room to have my stuff together, to know the songs inside and out, those kind of things. So I would say, generally speaking, us musicians can get that part put together, or we can make adjustments to make that work really well. But typically speaking, I think don't know where to start, or don't know what the approach is on how to market ourselves or the band and those kind of things. We're really bad at that part. And it's, the old school way of thinking was you would have a band, and then you would get a record deal, and then you would have people that would take care of all this stuff for you. And so you just focused on playing your shows and riding around in a tour bus and your private jet and all those kind of things, and you would never have to worry about that. And I think that definitely happened for bands, and some of them very successful, some of them lost that success and ended up being broke because they weren't involved in the business side of the music business. They were only involved in the music side, and again in the promotional side of things. So I kind of made a little bit of an outline. I'll try to follow it as close as possible. And if you guys got stuff you want to say, go ahead and say it. And I'll preface all this by, I don't have it all figured out by any stretch of the imagination. I guess, in the world of social media, I'm probably on the older side of the spectrum of people, and that's okay. The people who seem to have social media really figured out, who are really successful at it, are young people. People that are late teens, early 20s. They seem to be on the cutting edge of that, and probably part of the reason is they have more time to devote to it. Us who are middle-aged, we've got families and jobs and mortgages and all of those things, and it's like, well, who has time to make a TikTok video? You probably have time, you just don't realize that. So I guess just my point being that younger people probably have time on their side, and they have time to devote to those kind of things and building a presence as far as that goes. Yeah, Scott Alexander's here, and I would definitely listen to Scott because he's in the mix of all of this. Just build your tribe, doesn't matter which platform. Yeah. So yeah, Scott, I'll expand off of that more here in a moment. But yes, excellent point. That I guess I'll expand off it now. There's a lot of different platforms out there. Facebook, obviously, I'm heavily involved on Facebook. Facebook tends to work really, really well for me. And I'll touch on some recent wins, I guess, that I've had over the past week. TikTok is a little slow, or Instagram's a little slower for me. TikTok's is working really well, and YouTube is my YouTube channel is starting to take off again. It's starting to have some traction. So let's get to my outline here. One is deciding, like, either personally or as your band or even venues, what is your desired outcome? What do you want to get out of something? Like, if you're a band and you have a new song coming out, a new video, which Midline did that earlier in the summer, we made a plan. Get this song done, get this recorded, get it mixed. Having a deadline is a good motivator to get stuff done, because if you set that deadline and keep that deadline, then there's stuff that's that has to happen before that. It needs to be taken care of. Planning a video shoot and how much time we were going to allow to, put that video together. Because it feels like if you don't have a deadline in mind for your goal, then that it just keeps getting pushed out and pushed out and pushed out and pushed out. And sometimes, you yourself can lose interest in the thing to begin with. It's because the excitement that you once had for it went away. So I think it's really important to set a deadline and stick to that deadline. So deciding what that desired outcome is going to be, if you're trying to get people in the door at your venue, how are you going to do that? And so then once you decide what that outcome is, then making a plan to meet that goal. And, sometimes you have to reverse engineer your life or or your approach to what you're doing, so that you can meet those goals and have it be successful. So I've mentioned before, just for my own personal music career, in our control room on the door, Mary and I made. It used to be what we call a vision board. Now it's just kind of like a to-do list, and that gets revised every once in a while as we move forward with things. And some of it happens quickly, and some of it's slower. And there's due dates assigned to some of that stuff. Like, we want to accomplish these kind of things. And Mary's always been a big supporter and cheerleader in helping me achieve my dreams, which is great. And I realize that not everybody has a spouse that's so supportive of that. Or they just don't, they're just like, yeah, if it works, cool. If it doesn't, cool. But Mary has always been very, very driven for me. So it's pretty cool. Steve Batista's here. Good morning, sir. Haven't ran into you in town in a while. I'm sure we're due then. All right, so one of the things that my buddy James had said was that was kind of tied to this was there's old ways of marketing versus new ways of marketing. And I thought back into the early 90s when Midline was, there was a lot of stuff happening for the band. We had an album that got put on the radio, and this is when 100.3 The X was an independent radio station, so they had the autonomy to pretty much do whatever they want whenever they wanted to. I think it was a really cool business model for the radio station, because everybody just listened to that station. Like, pirate radio was the station to listen to. It played stuff that was outside the box, and it wasn't a constant bombardment of the same 22 songs over and over. All that being said, they did play Midline on the radio, and we had 4 singles off of that album that they played in heavy rotation over the period of 2 years. So we're talking about 48 plays per week with each of these singles that came out. And the result of that was, we sold well over 10,000 albums. And in addition to, prior to the CDs, we sold, I don't know, several thousand cassettes. Cassettes were the thing. So our car is old enough to have a cassette player and a CD player. Yeah, so we travel in style, man. We travel in style. But, in promoting, we had record labels calling and managers calling, and all of this excitement was happening for the band. And so we made physical press kits. We had black glossy folders with a white vinyl, really nice die cut midline sticker on there. It was those weren't cheap. The stickers themselves at the time, were pretty expensive to have printed up. It was like, oh, we got to send out 10 press kits. Who's got money in their pocket to build these things? So we had that, and then we'd have our 8x10 photo of the band in there, and all these press clippings and bio and all of that. And you would mail those to record labels and managers and those kind of things, or the fax machine was popular. I don't have a midline press kit that was put together from that. I probably have pieces and parts, but I remembered I did get one from Seven Dust. I think there was a time when I was buying a lot of drum stuff off of eBay, and one of the guys that I bought stuff from was a big Morgan Rose fan, and so we were emailing back and forth, and so he sent me this. It didn't have a folder, but you'd send your 8x10 of your band. So there's Seven Dust, and then here's like a book of press clippings that they had. I don't know any A&R rep or radio station person who would actually read. There must be like 30 some pages here, maybe 40. But it said, hey, we're Seven Dust, and we do stuff, and that's really cool, and you should check us out. So there was a midline version of that. So you'd send these press kits. This is the old school way of how it worked. At least, to our knowledge, that was the case. We would make runs to Southern California 3 or 4 times a year. We'd do this little loop that would include playing a lot around LA and then down to San Diego and that area. That was kind of our focus for Midline. And on some of those trips, like when we played the Whiskey, there were some record label offices that were close to that. So we took a handful of press kits, and Scott Elliott and I went on a walk carrying press kits. And there had been a couple A&R reps that we had stayed in touch with over the years. And so when we go to LA, we try to hand deliver the newest and greatest midline promo. And then there was one record label, I don't remember the name of it, but we went into the office and wanted to drop off this promo material. And they said, oh, you have to take that downstairs to the mailroom entrance. And it was just like you would imagine seeing in the movies. Knocked on the door, because it was like a keypadded buzzer thing. Knocked on the door, we see somebody look through the through the little eye. I think the person at the front desk, made them aware that we were coming around, and we handed our, an envelope kind of like this one with our press kit in it, and who it was directed to. And when they opened that door, you literally saw this room full of these, those big laundry looking carts heaping with mail and probably hundreds of thousands of band press kits. It's like, oh, I'm sure the garbage man is happy when he's taking the trash out for that place. you never know if this stuff actually winds up in the hands of who you're sending it to. So this old school way of, excuse me, my nose is really itchy. Anybody having some allergies this time of year? Mine are starting, and I have an indoor job now. But at any rate, so there's this whole old school way of promoting your band that's totally unnecessary now because we have the internet. Gary is here. We had print media, BAM Bay Area Magazine. Oh, I remember BAM Magazine, and the clubs paid to list their calendars, and the writer. Oh, see, this is where I'm at the Seymour thing, and it doesn't want to cooperate. Gary, if I can't get this to work, of course I'll respond to you. I need to watch a tutorial on on what I'm doing wrong, or maybe I'm not doing anything wrong. So, there was this old school way of doing things, phone calls. This is before like email was even popular. So it's, the print media stuff is, I wouldn't say it's 100% useless because some of us do appreciate holding something physical in our hand that we can look at, those kind of things. So let's get back to the social media part of it. So one thing that sparked this conversation we're having today was there's another musician here in town who had made a post about being tagged in things that had nothing to do with them. There was no connection to them. Like the person making the post tagging, nothing was directly related to them. And so without being specific on who had tagged him, he just made a blanket statement like, this way of marketing that you think is so genius is actually going to backfire on you because it doesn't make me want to click through. It makes me want to go unfollow your page. And it was interesting that he had posted that because probably 10, 15 minutes before I saw that, I personally had been tagged in 2 posts that had absolutely nothing to do with me about anything that I was doing. Call me crazy, call me kooky, but that's like I'm sitting at the table or on the couch watching a movie, having a great time, and I'm interrupted with the knock at the door. We're all cautious about answering the door anymore. There used to be a time, like probably in the 80s, we're like, oh, who's here? But for me, it's there's a cycle of about every 6 weeks, we'll have a handful of solar solicitations to put solar panels on our house or to have our roof inspected. So it's this little thing that interrupts your day, and it's like, oh, you answer the door, and now this, you're the 7th company to come by in the last 48 hours that wants to sell me solar panels and wants to sit down with me and go through my power bill and to find out how much money that I'm going to save 60 years from now. Those kind of things. When you're getting tagged like that, there's a lack of etiquette, in my opinion, on that. It's annoying, and I'm not the only one that feels that way. This other musician in town had just posted, it was a simple like 1 or 2 sentences, like, if you do this is inspiring me to not have this thing that you want in my life at all, because and I don't know how many comments there were, 50 or so. There might even be more now. I haven't looked at it since I commented on it, but every single person that commented on this was also a musician of some kind, and they too agreed that was not cool. That there was no etiquette in that. And finally, the person who actually had tagged this guy weighed in and said, well, we're just trying to get people in the door, and the last group that we had only had 7 people. And, all right, so there's a big problem in that. If you're hiring a band that only brings 7 people in the door, those 7 people could just be people of pure happenstance stopping by because they want to grab a drink or food or whatever. So if the band cannot even bring, you know, if it was a 5-piece band and each of those people in the band had 2 people that came, they'd have 10 people there plus the 7. So there's some major marketing flaws on both sides of the fence in that regard. But it was interesting to see just how incredibly defensive this guy got over tagging 100 people who all started commenting about, this is ridiculous, don't do that, you know. And of course this person, he doesn't know me from Adam, so God bless him, but he said something along the lines like, once I had some experience in the music business and I had finally stepped out of my basement and started doing shows, that I would understand how important it is. So you can just say what you want to say, kid. You have no idea. And, you know, maybe he doesn't need to have an idea, but it was just funny because he couldn't come back and just say, hey, I'm sorry, according to everybody here, this is not a good approach. But there he was nonetheless. So yeah, have some etiquette, you know, when you're tagging people, make sure that they're directly related to your post. And, you know, I have a lot of musician friends, locally and globally. You know, I have musician friends that live over in Europe. I've got musician friends who live in Japan. I've got musician friends who are, you know, another level or several levels above me, that I don't tag those people unless I feel 100% confident that I can tag this person, they're going to be okay with it, because it helps put them in a great light as well. So just remember that when you're tagging people, like, think it through, you know, because when you tag people, that immediately attaches them to that thing. And do they need to be attached to that? Do they want to be attached to that? Just, you know, I think business pages and venue pages now have some feature, which Facebook needs to get this gone, is you can tag everybody that follows that page. It has a little @ symbol with follows. I've tried to untag myself from several of those. It's, for example, like, I guess if you want to involve your moral compass in some things, there's some cultural things that are out there that I am not a fan of, that I don't support. And so that's just me personally. Now, I know that some of you out there might go, well, come on, Fred, you know, get with the 21st century or whatever. It's just, there's certain things that I know happen, and I'm not going to be able to, you know, I'm not going to stop it from happening, but I don't want to have an association with that. And so when I get tagged in those things, and then I can't go back and untag myself from it, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to, you know, I don't want to be a part of this. So, Greg is weighing in. It was like the Wild West. It's fun looking at all the independent band ads in my old Guitar World magazine. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that. Let me see if Gary's comment will pop up here. So don't over tag people. Just tag the people that are directly related to what you're doing, because it's just, there's another musician friend of mine on here. I think that he may or may not be still watching, but sometimes he and I have side conversations either through texting or something, where like he and I have both been tagged in something, like, oh my gosh, what's up with this joker? The bands that somehow got on my friends list, and tag everyone to go see their umpteenth show at Holy Joe's Hookah Shack. Man, I'm sorry guys, I can't click on this see more thing. It seems like I have this problem. Oh, and now see, maybe there's just a delay, because now Gary's whole thing just popped up. So he was talking about print media. It was great, radio, print, and TV back then. There were stickers and posters. Oh yeah, plastic. Yes. Nashville, 80s and 90s. Yep. Let's see if Greg's comment will pop through. Maybe it will. Oh, there it is. I just had to just keep trying on a Tuesday night. Yeah. Gary says followers now allows everybody on your list to be tagged. I'm tagged in 103 posts a frickin' day. Yeah, so Gary, that brings me, kind of recenters me on, like, this person had my microphone's falling. Yeah, prior to seeing that guy's post, I had already been tagged by 2 things that had nothing to do with me. And then within 50 minutes, I was tagged in 9 more posts. And Gary has a pretty great resume, so yeah, you probably get, it's like tapping on a stranger's shoulder constantly. Hey, or a fly that just won't leave. It's annoying, right? They just keep going to your ear. So like that print media thing, I remember Midline thought it was a good idea, along with multiple other bands, of flyering everybody's car. And we went from having like 8x10 size flyers to this is where we were getting economical in our blanket marketing, is that we made flyers that you could fit 4 to a page. And so when we would go downtown and we would flyer all the cars in the whole downtown area, the whole 6th and Main, from Hannah's to, where Graney's was and all of that, thousands of flyers we would put on people's windshields. And then, those venues would call us a day or 2 later and say, come pick up your trash. Because people would generally grab those flyers. They wouldn't even look at it. It's like, oh, here's some mess on my car, and huck them on the ground. And so there was a point where there was a big crackdown on flyering, and it just became a thing that you didn't do. We didn't want to spend money for radio ads. Marcy, doesn't matter if it's print or online, the importance of a good photo is high. Yeah. So that was part of what I wanted to get to here is you want to be exceptional in your marketing materials. I just posted the brand new Midline photo last night, and it'll get circulated around. Black backdrop, really clear photo of the band. You can clearly see who we are. There's no trampoline in the background or train tracks. I personally cannot stand band photos that revolve around train tracks or where people are holding their instruments. I wonder who the drummer of the band is. It's not 1977 anymore. Yeah, it costs real money. So that, yeah. Having a plan, sticking to it, having some etiquette, old ways. There was some really cool stuff about the old ways, but just like Greg, I have to read the rest of your comment, but I just saw, the old school ways cost money. Like I was saying, like to print up a press kit for Midline, there was probably $18 or so involved with that, because just those stickers themselves were expensive, and you would go do a photo shoot, but you go to an actual photography studio or hire somebody, Now we have like that kind of quality photo capabilities in our pocket all the time. So those kind of things. So if you're, just trying to hang on so desperately to those old school ways, it's probably not going to work for you very well. You got to adapt to the new trend, and the new trend is constantly changing over and over and over. It's like what's popular today might not be popular tomorrow. There's always the next thing, like trying to stay on the cutting edge of that. And truthfully, it's not that difficult or time consuming if you just, like I said earlier, having a plan, and you're going to dedicate, okay, I'm going to spend a half hour this morning and I'm going to watch some YouTube videos on how to promote my band online. So, and it's free. Most of these marketing tools are free. They're free. Free. I mean, it doesn't get more affordable than free. All it costs is the time to do it. And we just go, it's like, not having that deadline. It's like, I'll get to it. Oh, okay, well, no, now I'm no longer interested. And same with your audience. If you're not feeding your audience something, then they're going to lose interest. And so that's why it's important to be constantly putting content out there to, if you're promoting yourself or promoting your band, you have to have a steady flow of content available. It's really, really important. In fact, I went and I found a person who was really having some great success with their Instagram, and so much so that, and this person is late teens, early 20s, and is starting to make a living through social media, through sponsors, products that he's promoting, and those kind of things are starting to pay him to do basically advertising for them. And Greg, the posts that say, exciting things coming soon. There was a meme floating around that said, God, give me the strength of a local band announcing big announcement coming soon. That's such an old thing to say anymore. Big things coming soon. Well, what big things? For example, I'd use Midline for example, because we got the wheels going on that band again, is big things coming soon. Well, we do have a new song that's going to be coming out soon. We haven't put a release date on it yet, but it is being sent tomorrow to be mixed. All the tracking is done. It's prepared. It's ready to go. I was going to send it off to Chris Collier to mix. I messaged him yesterday, said, because I've been in contact with him, just keeping him up to date, and said, hey, we have the tracks ready. What's your schedule? And, because that will help us decide a timeline on that. We already booked the time for a video shoot. We secured a location, not the same as the one we just did before, but another location. Got that squared away. So, there's these things. So, and I've mentioned before, we've got this thing happening, but it's not just really vague, big announcement coming soon. Yes, affiliate marketing is the new paper route, definitely. Yeah, because I'm an Amazon affiliate. This is kind of getting a little sidetracked a little bit, but yeah, there's ways to make income. And a lot of that has to do with how we're marketing ourselves on social media. So, old ways adapt, and then there's all these excuses and buts. Well, I can't, I don't know how to take a picture. I don't know how to make a post. Like, yes, you do. Or just take a moment and learn, because, especially when you've been in a band where there's like one guy in the band who's not afraid to do social marketing media stuff. Yeah, I'm that guy. I don't mind talking on the camera. But I've been with other musicians who are like, well, I don't want my page to be just a news flash of what's coming next. So yeah, I don't want my page to constantly be an advertisement. Yeah, I get that, and it probably shouldn't be. So, like, just being exceptional at what you do. Marcy mentioned, having great quality photos. Yes, that's, how we appear is really important. I've seen, I've seen some band photos. I can't express how much I hate train tracks in photos. But what's even worse is you see a group of people getting their picture taken in the backyard, and you see the kids' play equipment in the background, the wooden fence, some smoke coming off the neighbor's barbecue, a lawn that needs to be mowed. They're not dressed like a band whatsoever, and that's their promo picture for the band. If I was just scrolling through, I would probably just go, oh, that person had a barbecue. You know, we're probably going to look at the picture before we read any of the text. So, yeah, get a great photo. Look like you care. You know, that's my opinion. You know, if you're trying to grab somebody's attention. So, you know, where to start, what to do, what not to do. People asked me, one thing that was talked about was paid ads. I tried doing paid advertisement sponsored things for Fred Rock School of Drumming like 2 years ago, and it nearly killed that Facebook page because somehow it triggered Facebook to know, like, oh, this guy's spending a few $100s to promote this thing. And to what degree they really did, because I paid all this money to do, like, I don't know, it was like 3 or 4 different ads, maybe 5, just trying to get the word out about teaching. And, you know, Mary and I went through that, and you can select, you know, regionally what you want to be that advertisement to focus on. I'd start asking people that I knew pretty well, have you seen my ad pop up in your Facebook at all? They're like, no. I know that it did get seen, but when and where it was really hard to put my finger on. Like, that's. But ever since I did that, trying to get traction on the Fred Rock School of Drumming Facebook page has been nearly impossible. Because prior to the ads, I could make a post, and, you know, you can see how many people have seen it if you done a video, how many people have viewed it, how long they watched it, all those kind of things. Used to be several hundred. Now I'm lucky if I have 3 to 10 people that might see it or comment it still. So, like I said, it nearly killed. It's on life support, basically. Gary, I'm going to tag all you bitches in my next post. That is awesome. That's one of the best comments that I've seen in a long time. Bring it. Oh, yeah. So, you know, I'm just looking at my notes here, like what turns people away, you know, over tagging people. That's, you know, and then, people need to feel connected to what you're doing. You know, it can't just always be, hey, you know, I think it was Greg said, you know, the bombardment of my band's playing at the hookah bar on Tuesday night. You know, have some other thing to talk about or to post about. Here we are recording this song. Check out my new guitar. You know, with my drumming stuff, you've probably seen recently, I've been keep pushing out these short little few second long drum things. So I've gone back and grabbed some little clips of some what I think are interesting drum fills out of some of these drum covers I've done and posting that. Because like I said a moment ago, that I went and got some coaching on, you know, how I could grow my audience because of what I'm trying to accomplish. It's necessary. And so this person, you know, was saying, you know, to get the traction, 2 to 4 posts a day. And that's a lot. It is a lot. So how do you come up with that much content that's worth looking at? So I was trying to do 2 posts a day, and I'm sometimes struggling just to find the time. I almost forgot yesterday. But so I've been doing this for about a week now of just turning out some content, you know, with these short few second attention grabbers, and then see if that would drive people to the long form content. And that is working. It's really interesting. So I did, if you guys have seen them, great. If you haven't, that's fine too. But I did one reel, and then I posted it to my story on Instagram, and then shared that to Facebook, and then to TikTok and to YouTube. And so The first one I did was kind of this triplet drum fill. And I played a drum beat along with it, did this triplet drum fill. And I had some closed captioning things on what the sticking was. Then the next day I did another 16th note triplet drum fill that was a little bit different from the day before. This one was a little shorter. I said less stuff. For whatever reason, that triggered something in the algorithms. And so I think it's been up there for 4 days now. That reel has 38,000 views, and it's like 13 seconds long. So being at 13 seconds long, it's highly possible that several people have watched it multiple times. So maybe that's part of the reason. It's had 62 shares. And it's got a global reach, which is also interesting because I've had over 400 new followers on my Facebook page since I posted that video. So, I've got like 1,800 friends on my Facebook page. Well, add another 400 to that as people who are following now just in the 4-day period. I've got people all over the United States, South America, Australia, Japan, and they're mostly drummers or a musician of some kind. But that one reel just took off like crazy. It doesn't have nearly as much attention on TikTok, but it's interesting to watch the numbers. My Instagram followers jumped by about 80 people, and my YouTube jumped about 60 people in the last 2 days, just from these short little reels that I'm posting out there. So, these short few second attention grabber videos have been great. And, I have a fairly decent room here. There's nothing embarrassing. There's no lawn equipment in the corner. So that presentation, I believe, is an important thing. If you want to be a professional, you got to look like a professional. So, and I'm always trying to improve those things. So, here's an interesting thing that we could probably touch on for a moment is AI, the chat GPT things. It's the chat GPT has been in the news a lot recently. I've noticed because college students and high school students are using chat GPT to do their homework. And if you never tried that AI app, you can put in some very vague informational things, and it'll spit out this really impressive resume or bio or something, And I've seen several bands that have been using that feature to talk about their band. And so that's where like the authenticity part of it becomes pretty apparent, especially if you know the people personally, because there's no way that they talk that way. They use huge words that some of them I had to look up at the dictionary. It's like, I think I know what this means because of the context of where it's been used, but I know that Joe doesn't talk that way. So I would suggest if you use that, it can be a great thing to kind of outline an idea, and then you could go through and modify it so it sounds like you actually talking. So just being authentic in your promotion, I think, is also really important. I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. That's kind of what it looks like when you watch these or read these chat GPT things. Let me catch up real quick here. Yeah, Greg says it's about actual engagement involving the people and not just yelling at them from a distance. Yeah, exactly. So, if you can involve your audience in your marketing, it's pretty cool. I've had a lot of great comments and complimentary comments on my YouTube channel with my drumming videos and things like that. I've also had a few real stinkers come along who are really critical of and how you respond to those people is important too, where they're like, hey, that's not how that drum part goes, or there's a lot of opinions that get thrown into the mix. So it's that's another thing, is like being careful, like how emotionally involved do you really want to be in getting your point across, or that you're right and they're wrong, or vice versa. Yeah, because I experienced this in the past. I don't really participate in this anymore, but I used to see people who would post things that really went against either what I knew to be true or was and I would say something, and then you get kind of this online argument, this drama going. It actually you could feel like a little adrenaline burst happen, like, and so through people that I trust and I've been doing coaching with, it was highly recommended, and I recommend this to you too, is that if you have things that are popping up in your news feed on social media, unfollow that or unfriend that or block that. Just get it out of your life. Get the negative stuff out of your life. Because it does make this platform way more enjoyable. Speaking of platforms, because Scott Alexander mentioned early on, is you don't have to be the king of all the social media platforms, because there are so many out there. Twitter is one that I have an account for, but I don't use. I don't know how to use it, for one, and I'm not interested in learning it. The stuff that I did know about with Twitter, I tried doing it and it didn't work for me. And then I see all the stuff that is popping up in it, and I'm like, there's so much negativity here, and even from musicians that I really admired, but now I know their political views or whatever it is, that just like, I just want to enjoy you for the awesome musician you are. I don't really care about your cause. So Twitter's one of those things that I just, and I know that there's like Snapchat, and I don't know, there's probably a few others that are out there. You don't have to be on all of them. Find the one that works for you and then expand off of that. Like I said, a moment ago, is that Facebook is one of those things that really, really seems to work for me. So I give it a lot of attention. So yeah, it's again, this is a free tool. It's free. Gary and Greg, talking about, the print material from back in the day, go to Kinko's and you're making photocopies. Golly, it might have been 10 cents a copy or something. I don't, and then you start making those copies and it spit out 20, and you realize you misspelled a word or something, or it came out crooked, or part of the picture was cut off. It was like, oh man, this is, there was some risk in that. So yeah, anybody got a lot of great comments here? Anthony, let's see, there's a delay in the see more function. I want to do all the taboo photo shots for my new project: train tracks, empty streets, brick buildings with graffiti. What is it? Freak Alley in downtown Boise. I think there's probably been a few hundred bands that all took their picture in the same spot. And Midline was guilty of that at one point. My favorite comment so far is Gary's. I'm going to tag all you bitches in my next post. Oh, thanks, Gary. Love the playing cover videos. Ask how to play a drum fill, see what happens. Oh, Greg, are you talking about Chat GPT? Ask it how to play a drum fill. Robin says, do you pay to boost your post? Yeah, Robert, I don't know if you just got here, but I tried that 2 years ago with the Fred Rock School of Drumming page, and it didn't produce any results. I didn't get any new students out of that, and it nearly killed my page because I used to have all this audience engagement, but as soon as I started paying to have sponsored ads, Facebook squashed anything that I posted that wasn't a sponsored ad. It was really super frustrating. And so I've been trying for almost 2 years now to try to get some organic traction on that again, and it's very, very slow in recovering. So I'm personally not a fan just because that was my experience. Now I don't know if that has changed. I'm not sure that I'm too into the risk of trying it again. But I do see venues and bands doing sponsored ads. So I do see people doing sponsored ads now. I don't know how well that works. I've found new drum equipment that companies have done that. So yeah, Robin, I my personal experience with that wasn't good. But you might solicit the advice from some other people that have done it more recently to see what has happened. That would probably be a good plan. The other thing that, before I wrap this, because I got to wrap it up because I've got a lot to do today. The other thing is like avoiding brand confusion. I think if you how do I say this without saying it? Let's pretend that you have a business, and the name of your business, when it first got started, was a little difficult to let people know where it was and what you did there, because it had a previous reputation at this location. So you spend several years building that brand, and people know where it is, and it's had pretty good success, this business, this fictitious business. And now it got pretty successful, and now you have some new people that come in. They have all these great ideas. We're going to do this and make this better and this and that, and we're going to change the name. So so that would be brand confusion, right? You've got the area you live in are now accustomed to knowing what this place is, where it is, and what happens there. And now it's getting a facelift. Not that facelifts are for business. Not me get a facelift. However, I am considering it. And then picking a name that isn't confusing as well. Don't have a name that's associated with something that might bring to mind elderly care or something like that. You're trying to get young people into a place of business. You might want to be careful about what you call it. So I remember when the Knitting Factory first came around. Of course, everybody in the knitting, in the area knows about the Knitting Factory, or I think they do, as being a great concert venue and all of that. But I remember when they first came to town and people were talking about the Knitting Factory, that they said, Knitting Factory? Is this a place like Joanne Fabrics? So, of course, they got over that hump pretty quick. Because, when you have a national band coming to town and they're playing the Knitting Factory, you're going to go regardless of what you think the name might be. So maybe it'll be successful. So just be careful with your branding and being consistent with that. So The producer just came in the other room and gave me the wrap it up signal because I do have some other commitments that are time sensitive. So I'm going to jump and go do that. But thanks for hanging. Again, if you guys got stuff you want me to talk about, put them in the comments. Like I said, when I started this, I got some really great topics to go off of. But so anyway, there you go. There's my opinions. And it's just all based on, you know, what's worked for me and what hasn't. So you guys have a great day. I'm gonna go do my thing. I sort of neglected my coffee here because I was just blah blah blah. We'll see you guys next Tuesday.